Welcome to Streams of Love, a place where emotions flow into stories, where the things women feel but don't always say aloud are finally given a voice. When I realized something was wrong in the way he loved, I met him on a summer evening in a small bar in Barcelona. There was nothing remarkable about that bar: a few old wooden chairs, the smell of red wine, and the gentle hum of flamenco in the background. Yet the moment he walked in, everything seemed to slow down. He had warm eyes, a confident smile, the kind of man who makes you believe you're the only woman in his world. And yes, at first, I believed it. When he walked closer, there was something about him that made me drop my guard. He touched me gently, yet with a magnetic pull. A touch that wasn't rushed, wasn't careless. It felt like he was reading me with his fingertips, reading emotions I hadn't even named yet. In that moment, I felt desired, wanted, worshipped as if out of millions of women. He chose me, and I believed in that until the truth slowly began to reveal itself. What felt wrong wasn't him, it was the way he loved. The closer I got to him, the more I realized he loved in a language different from mine. Not the language of late-night conversations, not the language of listening, not the language of two souls trying to understand each other. He loved through closeness, through intensity, through the sensations he created, not the connection he built. I realized he could make me tremble, but he didn't know how to make me feel safe. He could hold me all night, but he didn't know why I was crying. He knew how to pull me into him, but he didn't know how to step into my world. And that's when I began to understand. Some people love with their bodies long before they learn to love with their hearts. Some people use passion to hide their fears. Some people cling to intimacy just to feel alive. And he was one of them. 1. He loved with his body before he ever loved with his heart. Those first nights with him made me believe I was the luckiest woman in all of Barcelona. He was passionate, intense, overwhelming in a way that made me truly believe it was his way of saying, "I love you." But then the truth appeared softly, like the very first scratch on a mirror. Every intimate moment came before any meaningful conversation. I wanted to tell him about the job that gives me headaches every morning, about the small fears I hide behind mascara, about the unfinished dreams I'm almost too afraid to reach for. But every time I started to open up, he would pull me into his arms, into his mouth, into his body, as if skin on skin was the only language he knew how to speak. And slowly, I realized something every woman eventually understands when she loves a man who loves the wrong way. He didn't rely on sex to love me. He relied on sex to survive. It was his breath, his shield, his only escape. And for me, that was the moment I understood we were not speaking the same language of love. 2. He used his body to avoid his emotions. There were moments when I saw him empty, exhausted, or tense. Not the kind of tiredness that shows on a face, but the kind that lives in the eyes as if something inside him was sinking, and he didn't want anyone to see it. I thought he needed someone to listen. A slow conversation, a gentle reassurance, a hug that didn't have to lead anywhere else. But for him, listening didn't happen through words. He just needed me to lie beside him, to lace my fingers with his, to let the warmth of my body fill the spaces he never dared to name. On those nights, he didn't come to me out of love. I could feel it clearly, quietly, painfully. He came to me so he wouldn't have to face himself, the shadows inside him, the wounds he never touched. And when a man uses sex as a blanket to cover the injuries that never healed, the woman lying next to him feels the truth more than anyone. There can be a coldness even in the hottest moment, because his body was close, but his heart was very, very far away. 3. Sex was the only key he knew how to use. I started to notice a pattern clear, undeniable, even though at first I didn't want to believe it. When I was sad, he wanted to hold me, as if my sadness could disappear just by him pulling me against his chest. When I was angry, he wanted to kiss me, a kiss not meant to apologize, but meant to silence me. When we argued, he wanted to solve everything with intimacy, as if complicated emotions could be erased by a few minutes of closeness. When I asked him what he truly wanted in the future, he changed the topic with his touch, his fingers tracing my skin, as if that was the only way he knew how to escape questions he was too afraid to answer. And I didn't blame him. Truly. Not everyone is taught how to express their emotions. Not everyone knows how to listen to another heart. Not everyone grows up understanding that love must be held together by understanding, not just desire. But the truth, gentle or harsh, is still the truth. He only knew how to love with his body, and his heart seemed like it had never been opened. There are men who know exactly how to make you tremble, but have no idea how to make you feel safe. There are men who understand every curve of your body, but none of the fears hiding behind your eyes. And with him, I learned this. Sometimes the problem isn't that he doesn't love, it's that he only knows how to love in the way he's capable of. And that way was not enough for me. 4. And then I realized I was lonely even while lying in his arms. I once believed his passion was proof that he loved me, his way of telling me I mattered. That out of all the possibilities in his life, he chose me. But as time passed, I began to see the small cracks, the quiet spaces I could no longer ignore. I was touched, but not understood. He knew how to place his hands on my skin, but not how to place a question on my soul. He knew how to make me tremble, but not why I fell silent. I was desired, but not heard. His hunger always felt louder than the stories I wanted to share. Every time I spoke, he turned my words into a kiss, as if lips could replace empathy. I lay beside him, but I could never enter his inner world. He opened the door to his room, but never the door to his heart. I was right there, pressed against him, yet I felt like I was standing outside a house that didn't belong to me. And then I understood. This is the loneliness of a woman who loves a man who knows how to connect through skin, but not through soul. A strange kind of loneliness, not born from a lack of touch, but from a lack of presence. Not because he was far from me, but because his heart never truly came close. 5. What does it mean when a man lives through sex? It wasn't that he was a bad man. I knew that from the very first moment he smiled at me, the kind of smile that softens the whole world in a single breath. It wasn't that he was addicted. He wasn't the type of man who lost control or chased pleasure blindly. It wasn't that he was using me. There were moments when he looked at me as if I truly mattered, as if I were the place he could rest after a long day. But even though it was none of those things, there was still a distance between us, an invisible space I spent a long time trying to name. He lacked emotional language. I once sat across from him, trying to open up about the fears I carried, the wounds I hid at the bottom of my voice. But he just looked at me with confusion as if I were speaking a language he had never been taught. And then he touched me. Softly, but enough for me to understand that this was his version of a response, his replacement for words he couldn't express. He didn't know how to comfort with sentences. He comforted with his fingertips. He didn't know how to explain with speech. He explained with his body. He was afraid of real intimacy. Ironically, physical intimacy didn't scare him, but emotional intimacy did. A question about his childhood made him quieter than any embrace in the dark. A serious conversation unsettled him more than our worst arguments. Once, I looked into his eyes and asked, "What are you thinking about?" He smiled, touched me, pulled me into his arms, but the real answer I knew lived somewhere he didn't dare look. He used sex to fill the emptiness inside Ram. There were nights he came to me not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of loneliness. Fear of emotions rising like a tide. Fear of facing the parts of himself he always tried to avoid. He held me as if letting go would let old pain rush back in. He kissed me as if that moment was the only shield he had against the shadows inside him. And I, without saying a word, felt it deeply. He wasn't using me. He was using closeness to cover the emptiness he had never been taught to heal. He mistook desire for love. To him, wanting meant loving. Passion meant commitment. Touch meant connection. I didn't blame him. It was all he knew. It was the way he learned to love from the broken pieces he came from. But for a woman, for me, love is more than that. It is safety, listening, companionship, conversations that last until sunrise, being seen even when there's nothing to look at, a connection that doesn't require taking anything off except fear. And once I understood that, I wasn't angry with him anymore. I was simply sad for the way he had to face the world with a language missing half its letters. A kind of love that knew the body but had never reached the soul. Because sometimes the greatest tragedy isn't that someone doesn't love you, it's that they only know how to love in the way they were taught. And that way is not enough for you. I remember the moment I realized a truth so simple it felt almost softly painful. That you lived on sex. Not in the terrible way people often talk about men. You weren't bad. You weren't addicted. You weren't using me. It was just that you had no other language for love. And when that truth passed through me like a cold breeze, I didn't blame you. I simply understood something like opening my eyes to what my heart had been trying to ignore all along. Our love was never lacking fire. It was only lacking a heart. The fire was always there, bright, passionate, pulling me into you like a storm of pure instinct. But the heart was something you had never learned how to use. And me? I am a woman who needs more than that. I need a heart that knows how to listen. A soul that can touch me without needing hands. A man who can stand beside me, not just in the dark, but also in the light of honest conversations. So I'm not angry, not sad, not shattered. It's just that, in the end, I understood that between us, the fire always met, but our hearts never did.